WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Communications Channel 16 proudly present The We Should Know Show, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative. Now, here's your host, J.W. Simmons, as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We Should Know is on there. My name is J.W. Simmons, your host. It's my pleasure to be with you today. Also, my pleasure to introduce our guest today, which actually needs a little introduction, and that is Becky Spell Vann. Becky, thank you for coming in. It's always a pleasure to have you come in and just kind of talk about things that's going on in the community through your perspective with Tim's Gift. You're connected to multiple faith-based organizations in the area. Tim's Gift has been in business for quite a few years, and I want to talk about where it is and just kind of give people a little refresh on how you got into Tim's Gift. And I think it's interesting because oftentimes we get caught up in our own worlds and we fail to realize that you're still pushing forward out there and making a difference in people's lives that sometimes folks don't see. So tell us how you got started again and remind us. And you've got an excellent board of directors that you work with. This has grown to be a rather large operation. Thanks again for being with us.
Thank you for the invitation and a chance to share, because I believe it is important when we share the good things that are going on, because often it's only the bad that we hear so much. But Tim's Gift began basically in 2007. My husband Tim had gone through a 2-year battle with brain cancer. And in that battle, we, instead of taking him to the rest home, my younger son Clint quit his job at a radio TV station in Wilmington and came home to help keep his dad. Cameron kept the business going. And we had a time at home where we were able to just enjoy some fellowship before he got to the point we knew that time was short. When Tim passed, JW, our home was full of medical equipment and supplies, because his hospice nurse was a wonderful lady, Donna Reedy, and she made sure that he had everything he needed. But what were we to do with all that? And I couldn't let it go. I just couldn't put it out at the curbside. So God was working through that, because down at Topsail, a church I go to there in the summer a lot, Emma Anderson, they called and asked if I would go on a mission trip to Belize with them. Now, that was the beginning of 2008. We left, I did go, and we traveled. It was Valentine's Day. And while we were flying from Miami to Belize on a smaller plane, I remember looking out that window and I thought, today's Valentine's Day, Lord. And a lot of these ladies that are on this trip with me, when they had checked their baggage at the airport, there were Valentines in it and candy, and there's nobody. Now, there's nobody now to give me anything on Valentine's Day because Tim's gone home, and I was feeling pitiful. And we don't need to go there because the devil he'll get a hold of us when we do that. So I looked out that window of that plane and I was wiping tears. I remember it like it was yesterday. And when we landed in Belize and I got off the plane, I had my suitcase and my carry-on bag, and I started walking towards a small little open air building where we would all check in. And somebody was calling my name. It was Michelle Reynolds. They used to live here. And Michelle said, stop. And I said, what is it, Michelle? She said, while we were flying over the water coming here, I had my Bible and I was reading. And God spoke to my heart and said to come and tell you that He loves you. And I will never forget that. But those 3 words from that spiritual friend changed my life, because I had 2 weeks in Belize to be away from home, and God used those 2 weeks to prepare my heart, JW. He truly did. We were doing outreach work there, painting and helping build outhouses that we would deliver out into what they called the wood, and it was the edge of the rainforest. And one of the visits where we went, there was a lady who was baking beans for us in a big pot, and there was just 4 little walls, and she had 8 children, and they all had a hammock that hung around the wall. They would sleep on at night. And I felt led. God said, go speak and talk to that lady while she's cooking and offer to help. So I did, and the others were all around the little village where we were. And the lady spoke English. She began talking to me, and I said, ma'am, you have your 8 children? She said, 2 stay with a Baptist missionary couple in town. But she said, my husband died 6 months ago. And so I'm a widow now taking care of my children. Well, I told her that 6 months ago, I had become a widow also. And we stood under that little tent where she was stirring a pot of beans, JW, and God spoke to my heart that back at home there was something to be done, and I didn't understand that. I said, how did your husband pass? She said, well, we were low on food for the children. So he said, I'll go out in the wood and kill some animals and bring them back for us to cook. She said, after he was gone for the 3rd day, the men in our little village here gathered to go out and look for him. And she said they looked for days and finally found his rifle, and it was near a patch of quicksand. She said, so he had died in quicksand, and I didn't know that. And she asked me how my husband passed. And the 2 of us embraced one another. A lady I don't even know her name. But we had the same story, JW. And in a foreign country, God put a woman in my life to bless me. She said, but ma'am, I have found out that it is when we don't get stuck on the sadness that we're in, we have to reach out and help others. And she said, that's why this morning some of the ladies in the village came and brought some things to help me. And I've got this pot of beans for you all to eat for lunch today. So through that mission trip that I really didn't think I needed to go on, God knew I needed it. He was preparing my heart. And the 2nd week we were there, most of that work was finished, and there was not a job for me to do. So I would help out in the kitchen back where we stayed at the Baptist place, and there was a Catholic school down the path. So one day I walked down that path, and I went and asked the principal, could I look around the campus? And when I came across the middle school classroom, JW, it was so run down. It was ragged. It was pitiful. There was no glass in the windows. They were just open. And I went in to sit in and listen to the teacher. There were 36 students in that room from ages 9 to 22. Well, when I started to leave after the children left, I talked to the teacher and shared that I was a middle school teacher here in Clinton, North Carolina. And I said, how do you do this? He said, you love it. When he told me what their pay was, it was pennies. It was so little. I said, you are an amazing person. He said, well, I won't be here tomorrow. I have a doctor's appointment in Belize. So when I left, God led me to a building, and when I walked in, it was the principal's office. A small room. I introduced myself and I said, I just met your middle school teacher. I said, we're here and we've got 4 more days here and my job is finished. Would you let me come and teach your middle schoolers tomorrow? That was such a step of faith, because it was like the words fell from my mouth, and I know God was leading that. She said, would you do that? There's no pay. I said, I wouldn't do it for pay. So the next morning, that night I was so excited, I prepared, and the next morning I walked down that path and entered that classroom. I didn't know those children, but they were so kind, so mannerly. I asked them for English that day to write who their hero was, JW. And I said, I'm going to take your papers home tonight and grade them, and I'll bring them back to your teacher tomorrow and he can pass them out to you. Well, we finished our day. They left. I loaded all the papers. That night, we sat on the front porch where we stayed, and the other ladies helped me grade the papers. So the next morning, I walked down the path and went to the principal's office, and I said, if you'll give these papers to your middle school teacher. She said, oh, ma'am, he got stuck in Belize because he has to have more tests. Would you possibly stay today? God was giving me a gift, JW. Because those children, when I went back in that class, I said, today you get to read your papers. And they all had a grade and a comment on them. One little boy stood and read his paper, and he told how his family lived in the very edge of the rainforest, and there were many wild animals. He said, and we don't have a bathroom. We have a one room where we all sleep on a cot. He said, at night when I have to go to the bathroom, I'm afraid that a wild animal will get me. So he said, my grandfather, who is blind, took some rope and he tied it from the back of our little hut and tied it out to a place where some people built a little outhouse. And he said, when I have to go to the bathroom, I wake up my grandfather. He holds my hand with one hand, holds the rope with the other hand to guide him, and he guards me. He keeps me safe. He's my hero. Those children, I wish I had time to share all of them. They gave me the stories to bring home. But when I left Belize, the beginning of what God wanted to happen here at home happened there, because I stood out on the beach there and I looked down at my feet and the waves were washing over them. And I said, God, I don't want to leave this place. I want to stay here and do foreign mission work. And God spoke to my heart again and he said, there's plenty to do at home. And that is real. That's the truth, because God was preparing me for what he knew was going to happen in that little building where Tim had been for 35 years. Now, Tim's motto when he became Spell Insurance, we tried to think of just the right motto. When he was with Allstate, it was good hands. So one night he said, I've got it, Becky. I think I want to have as the motto, protecting your tomorrows today. Now that was a long time ago, 2007. But when I got home from that trip to Belize and I remembered that motto he came up with, and I remembered God saying, one day my children will treasure leftovers. I looked at all that medical equipment and I thought, I can't throw this away, but what do I do with it? I went to the mailbox the day that I got back from the trip to Belize here at home, and there was a card in the mail to me, and it had in the inside address, the return address, Prayer Connection, Farrell Carter, Clinton, NC. I thought, what is this? Well, in the time between that happening, I was diagnosed with colon cancer, and I was to have surgery at Chapel Hill. It was in July, after Tim had passed in April. And I went to a Prayer Connection prayer meeting. They have them here in our county. Mm-hmm. There was a huge group there that night. Pastor Ricky did the little sermon. They prayed, and when they had finished praying, he said, folks, I don't know if you all know this lady, but her name's Miss Becky Spell, and she's come here tonight for prayer. So let's pray with her. And many had prayed for me, JW, but they prayed over me. I was in the middle of a circle of people. I knew some, but didn't know all of them. They began praying, and when they finished, I was on the floor. They went into the kitchen they had a meal, and Miss Eloise Brewington came up to me. I had no idea who she was. She took her sweater from around her and put it over my legs. I was wearing a skirt that night. And she looked down at me and she pointed her finger at me. I'll never forget her words. She said, you'll come home tomorrow. I said, no, ma'am. They're doing surgery in the morning at 7 o'clock at Chapel Hill. She said, no, they're not. You're coming home tomorrow. Her faith was so strong, JW. I hadn't told anybody I was going to that Prayer Connection meeting, even my children. But the next morning when my younger son, Clint, was driving me at 4:30, we were on the road to Chapel Hill, I told him what happened. I said, Clint, that lady said that I would come home today. And he said, Mom, that can't happen. You're having surgery. Now, instead of standing up for the faith and what I felt in my heart, I said, I know. You're right. And I let it go. But do you know that 4 hours later, when we got to Chapel Hill, they put me to sleep. They prepared me for surgery. And I awoke in a room with Clint standing by my bed, holding my hand. It was the recovery room. I said, Clint, how did surgery go? He said, Mom, they didn't do surgery. He said, you had 5 doctors on this, and one disagreed with what was happening and said, you didn't have surgery. We're going home. So God had truly given me sign after sign to listen to his words of, one day my children will treasure leftovers. And that's what started Tim's gift. Tim's motto, that and the many messages. So that's how it all began, JW.
Absolutely. Listen, it's wonderful. I want to follow up when we come back and some commentary on that. It's a great introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. Look forward to seeing you on our second segment here. And this is an interesting conversation with Becky Spell Vann.
Just because something may work doesn't mean it's right for your business. Let Star Communications' knowledgeable consultants help you customize a hosted voice system that's right for you. Our dedicated experts work with you to understand your business needs and guide you at every step, from choosing and installing services to ongoing maintenance and support. Contact Star today.
Eastern North Carolina is a beautiful place where we gladly choose to call home, and we strive to provide the best communications services. STAR is committed to improving communications to all our service areas because we want to improve the communities where we not only work, but also live. STAR Communications. We are neighbors serving neighbors.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thanks for being with us. We Should Know is on there. We're coming on the second part of the show today. My name is J.W. Simmons, and our guest today is Becky Spell. Becky, the first part of the show, you led us down a journey that I've really not heard, and you've been on this show many times, but I hadn't heard you really lay it out in such a deep sense of passion as you had. I want to try to stay in that chain of thought as we talk about Tim's gift. We now see in a better light, I think, why you're doing what you're doing and why you've done it all of these years and why you're that person that so many people call on, and people that sometimes you don't even know, have never heard of before, show up at your door at Tim's Gift. Right. Let's kind of follow that same train of thought, if it's okay, and discuss more about this place that's simply referred to in two words, Tim's Gift.
Right.
And looking back now at how it started.
Well, first, I'd like for people to know, many people have said, well, why did you call it Tim's Gift? The day that Tim passed on a Sunday, April 22nd, his nurse was there, Donna Reedy, and we actually had church in our living room. A lot of our family was there. And when we finished, we had a prayer and we took up a love offering. It was $400 and some, JW. So we put it in an envelope and we gave it to Tim's hospice nurse because she had been amazing. They do great work for people. And we blessed her with that, and she accepted the Lord that morning. It was an amazing time. So that happened. And then we had the building. Then after that, and after I had gone through my bout with cancer and gone to Belize on the trip, I came home from Belize and I felt like that what God wanted was for me to take that building that was empty and do a ministry. But I didn't know what to call it. Now, in that card that I got in the mail from Prayer Connection, there was a letter. And the letter spoke to me about my love for the Lord, and Prayer Connection was praying for me, and they wanted to give me a donation for my ministry. And there was a $50 bill in that card. I was confused because I thought, I don't really know what we're starting, Lord. But I took that $50 and I put it in a hat box where I kept cards that we received when Tim was sick, and I put it under my bed. I forgot about it. when I had that card, and it was 2 months later when I was getting ready to try to start doing something at Tim's office, when I thought about that card, I looked everywhere. My granddaughter and grandson were spending the night with me. I said, if you guys will help me find a little hat box with a card in it, I'll take you to McDonald's for breakfast. They looked, and when we found it in that box, I took it. On Monday morning, I went to the bank right across the street from Tim's Gift. I opened an account. The lady looked at me and said, well, what's the name of your account? I said, I don't know. I just know it's about God's love. And she said, well, is that what you want it to be? I said, let's let it be Tim's Gift, because we got the gift. And this gift was given to his hospice nurse. We'll call it Tim's Gift, the Love Ministry. And the name Tim's Gift just stuck, JW. So that's how the name came apart. But when I came home from the trip to Belize, one of Tim's customers had agreed to help me remodel inside. It's a small building, JW. But God has shown me that we can do big things with small things when we give it to Him. And that's what happened. But the tiles were little tiles that were in the ceiling, and some of them were falling, and they had water damage on them. So the man who was helping me, Mr. Fred, said, Becky, we've got to start by taking this old ceiling out, and then we'll redo it and make the ceiling higher. So he came in that day with 2 garden hoses and some other equipment. I said, what are we doing? He said, well, there's no other way to get it out, but we've got to just pop each one of those ceiling tiles out. So we started in what is now my office, the smaller room, and we put on masks, and we started punching those little holes out. And I said, we'll just make a game from this. And we had finished about half of it, and I recognized that a lot of the stuff was falling from it that you put in to protect it from the cold and the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Was insulation. Thank you, JW. Insulation was everywhere. And I noticed Fred was coughing, and I was still punching those tiles out thinking, we're going to get this done today. And I looked, and Fred was he was just getting red in the face, and he almost passed out. And I said, what's wrong, Fred? He said, well, I have breathing problems. He said, in this insulation, there must be something that's really causing me to get stirred up. So we got out of that room and got him outside, and I called him. We got him. He got home. When I went back in the building, I thought, Lord, if this is the way it's going to be, what am I going to do? I don't have any help. And again, he spoke to my heart and said, you've got this. And I got mad, JW. I think it was the first time I really got mad since Tim passed away, mad about the whole thing. And I thought, Lord, is it not enough that my husband is gone, and now what are we going to do in this building? And look at all this mess. And when I looked at that mess, God came over me, and I felt the Holy Spirit tingling in me. And I said, you will not win this battle, devil. And I grabbed one of those hoses, and I started punching out, and I had a whole box of contractor, those big black bags. And as I would get all the insulation, I'd pile it in those bags. And I worked the rest of the day. It was 7.5 hours. I'll never forget it. And when I finished, all those tiles were down. All that insulation was bagged up. There were 27 bags for the garbage men to pick up the next morning, right outside at the road. And I looked at that, and I stood there, and I just did this, and I said, you didn't win this battle, devil. You can leave us alone, because God's got plans for this building. That was the beginning. A lot of people look at things sometimes that we do in life, JW, and think, well, that was easy. Just like you starting this and it going so strong. You had to plan and pray about this. And that's what we have to do when we're doing things. But that was the beginning of Tim's Gift. And then Mr. Gene Pierce came to put up the sign. And I again, the devil hit me with a rage of fear. And I went outside, and I said, Mr. Gene, can you please come back tomorrow? I need to pray some more. What if people laugh at us? What if we're the laughing stock of Clinton? And Mr. Gene Pierce walked in that office. And he left the other men out there working. And he sat down with me at what was going to become our little prayer table. And he said, Becky, let this go. God's got this. He said, you cannot be afraid and walk in faith at the same time. I cried, he cried, and we prayed. And when we finished praying, he went back outside, and I got on my face on the floor. And I said, God, I don't know what to do next. I'm trusting you. And they put the sign up. And within an hour after that sign put up, a teacher, assistant from Hobton High School came by and stopped and said, I just saw this sign. Is this a ministry? I need to do a program with the DECA Club at our school, and we'd love to do it here. Could we help support this? God gave me a sign within hours, JW. So that's how it all began. And it's, God birthed it, and God is growing it per His plans.
It brings to me an observation as you're talking that you are in the midst of something that is a ministry itself.
I believe that because of what God has sent to help, the people He sent to help us as volunteers. One lady that came 10 years ago, she is the North Carolina representative for parents of murdered children. That is all over the United States. They have, each state has a chapter. And she has North Carolina. And she needed a place for her group to meet. Well, she didn't know where to go. So one of her good friends that worked with her told her about Tim's gift and said, I know Becky, I'll give her a call. So Edith Williams came in a few days later, and she told me, she said, I have a ministry called Faith. And she had spelled out Faith as an acronym of what she was doing. She said, and I also have North Carolina rights to parents of murdered children, and I need a place to meet. And I said, sure, let's sit down and work it out. So that began a partnership with Edith. And it's no mistake that we came together, and when people see us now, we go out, we're actually tag teaming in ministry now. It's been now 10 years. And her people meet there, and they meet in her home. People who have had a child who's been murdered or killed in a way that was hard for them to accept. And Edith does an amazing job working with them, but she asked me to join her. So I work with her in that, and then she works with me. She volunteers every Tuesday at Tim's Gift. And we have people that call that just need counseling. They want to know that they're going to be okay, that they've had a child lost. God began to send other volunteers who come. Kay and Jean Boyette work with us now. Lisa Edwards volunteers. Lisa and Mike Hoffman come every Wednesday. I taught Lisa in 7th grade, and she came with her husband when they retired and moved back here 3 years ago and said, I've told my husband all about you in 7th grade, and he said, we're going to volunteer. They're amazing. So God is growing it. It's like if we truly give it to Him, JW, and put it in His hands, we don't have to worry. He will work the plans out. We just have to wait on Him and trust Him.
That's interesting as the way you put that is that you have been given somewhat of a collection of things that you do that is inspired by the Holy Spirit. And I'm hearing clearly you say that. I want to kind of pursue that same thought as you look at your organization, this organization that you've been given when we come back.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're talking with Becky Spell Vann about Tim's Gift, her origin, the journey to today. We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
For the ultimate Wi-Fi experience, you need whole home Wi-Fi from Star Communications. Star's whole home Wi-Fi provides ultimate coverage, ultimate performance, and ultimate power all the time. Star's whole home Wi-Fi systems feature the latest Wi-Fi 6 technology and are equipped with unrivaled bandwidth and 4 times more simultaneous connections. So you can connect tons of devices throughout your home with no lag and no downtime. Plus, with 24/7 support and remote troubleshooting, you can rest assured that Star is always there to help you should any issues arise. Star's whole home Wi-Fi also comes with the Command IQ mobile app, putting you in control of your home network and making it easy to set up and connect devices, run network speed tests, pause Wi-Fi, and set parental controls all from the palm of your hand. It's the ultimate Wi-Fi experience. Contact Star today to get started.
Let's get out of here.
Protect what matters most in your life with security from Star Communications.
Sign up for security monitoring during the month of February and receive basic installation free.
105.7. 105.7. Tuning into Christian 105.7 is tuning in to a space of hope, encouragement, answers, and love. With the magic of radio or the convenience of the internet, Christian 105.7 is focused on sharing the universal truth and light of Christ with a local touch that creates that special feeling of community. More than just another broadcast station, we're your neighbors. Christian 105.7. What faith sounds like.
Welcome back, folks. J.W. Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're coming to you on Star Communications TV Channel 16, simulcast on WCLN Radio. We're talking with Becky Spell Vann today. Becky, so far we've had a show that's really covered a lot of ground. The whole origin and development of Tim's gift. In many ways, maybe folks hadn't heard this perspective of it. Mm-hmm. But as we approach this part of the show, something that seems to be coming very clear is that Tim's gift is more than just a place where if you need some medical supplies, go check with Becky and folks can donate stuff to you to help other people with medical problems. You have now explained what Tim's gift is, and it comes to me that you're really leading a ministry here. Let's talk about that a bit, because you're connected with multiple churches in the region. You're constantly involved with individual intervention with folks to literally save their life, and you've been doing this for some time. So can we look at this and say, is Tim's gift the ministry of faith?
Well, I believe that, JW. We are now in our 16th year, and God has truly blessed us. The very first year when we were open, we were finishing all the details on our 501c3, and my son Cameron agreed to come and work 1 year. He didn't work for a salary. He came to help us get it started, and I needed that. We need help in things. And in his year there, he wrote a paper about Tim's gift. And in that paper, he actually submitted that paper, and it was honored because he said that the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Mm-hmm. He said, Mom, if Tim's gift is going to be successful and help people like you're dreaming and believing, then it's going to take a community coming together. And when I read the paper, it was a 15-page paper he wrote in there that he believed that the hospice and home health groups in our city and county would come together and work with Tim's gift. And I couldn't see that then because I couldn't get support. It was like people didn't know what Tim's gift was. I guess in their minds they were thinking it was a fly-by-night, and would we really be doing anything there? So again, I went to prayer and I asked God, and I said, Lord, I don't know what you've got planned here, but I know prayer is part of it. So I promise you, God, if you will help us grow this ministry, that we will pray with everybody that comes in. In 16 years, we've had one person that denied prayer, just one. And I have found that people really want it. And the ones who come back, we have people that come every week to get supplies. We know what they want when we see them come in. They will say, if we're busy and they have to wait, one of the volunteers may say, well, I'll help you. And they say, no, we're waiting for prayer. And now the volunteers have become prayer warriors. They've seen that. So having prayer there with everybody that comes, I believe is something that honors God, and He gives favor. And people that don't believe that, there's power in prayer. And if we are truly, He tells us in His Word, if we will repent and confess our sins and cry out to Him in prayer, He will hear our prayers. And I know God's heard prayers, and it's not all been easy, but it's been such an amazing journey to see how God has opened doors and answered prayers that I can only say is I give God all the glory. He just put me in place to be the one to carry it on. Because what he's blessed me with through Tim's gift is amazing. One thing is, about 4 years ago, a woman came in and asked for car seats for her 3 children. And she said, I don't have the money. I work minimum wage. And she said, I really need these car seats. And I thought, well, that doesn't fit what we say. We help with medical supplies, but yet it does, because those children needed to be strapped in and safe. So I went to Walmart. I bought 3 car seats. And when she came back to pick them up a week later, she came in with a bag. And she said, Becky, I've not told you how special this place is to me. She said, but I came here when it was an insurance office with my granddaddy. He had insurance with Mr. Tim. She said, I was 5 years old. She said, and every time we would come, I would get a sucker. Mr. Tim would give me a sucker. And she said, one time we came and my grandma was sick, and my granddaddy had to take her to the doctor in Chapel Hill or Duke, and he didn't have gas money. And Mr. Tim gave him gas money. And she said another time, I remember that he came in and asked, could he pay his policy later because he had had so many medical bills. And she said, Mr. Tim told my granddaddy, your policy's already paid for this month. I knew you were having some medical issues with your wife. And she said 1 month when we went in, Mr. Tim patted his leg and said, come over here and sit on my knee. And she said, he gave me a little whatnot. You know, we call them whatnots. And it was a whatnot of a little man, and there was a little girl in it. And that day she handed me that bag. Now that happened when she was 5 years old. Now she is a grown woman with 3 children. And she said, this is what Mr. Tim gave me when I was 5, and I've kept it all these years, but God told me to bring it back to you. And that gave me confirmation, JW, that Tim was sowing the seeds. It was not really me that started Tim's gift. It was Tim. When he was helping customers, he was giving them things that they needed and showing compassion. I asked our sons if they knew about it, and they said, Mom, we never knew Dad was doing that. I never knew it. It's been people coming in that have shared those things. So God gives us that confirmation when we honor the promises we make Him. And how could I not honor those promises? So yes, we pray with everybody that comes, whether they are donating something or coming to get something. And Tim's gift is so successful now with our medical supplies and equipment because of this community. Because now every hospice or home health group that is working in this area, when someone passes away, the people say, we don't want any of this stuff, take it away. They say, no, please take it to Tim's gift. From counties all around us, we are now serving not only Sampson County, but we are serving 12 different counties, people who come to us for help. And they tell us, we don't have anything like this in our county. We have doctors calling us to see if they can get something for a patient, nurses. It's unbelievable how God is growing it. But we know that the beauty of the ministry is not trying to be something that God doesn't want us to be. Because sometimes we're growing and we get too big for our britches. And my mama always told me that. I don't know if you remember that old saying. And we don't need to try to do that on our will for our way. It's His way. So now we don't have to ask for supplies, and we have an abundance, and some supplies that come in have been opened, or the equipment might be missing a wheel. And for the first five or 6 years, we would put it out at the road and they would pick it up, and it broke my heart. And then God sent people that said, we will pay the freight if you can get this equipment. Dr. Watts works closely with us, with a group of doctors across America he works with. Kay and Jean Boyette come once a month, and we have piles for them that they load up and take and store in a building behind their church. And there's a group called Helping Hands in Southern Pines that pays all the freight. We've never paid freight but one time. God takes care of it. So that's how it's growing. It's growing through prayer. It's growing through people sharing about it, and our community supporting us.
It's a dynamic that is almost like a movement. and it continues to grow. And I recall a quote from a minister, retired minister, a while back, and he said, "God's will, nothing more, nothing less, that's all."
Right.
And it's interesting because I hear those same words coming through what you're saying.
Right. Well, and finding the right people to work at Tim's Gift was a situation I prayed a lot about. And you know the story of Jennifer coming to work there, Jennifer being blind, but she kept trying. She didn't give up. She called 3 times and I said no because I didn't see how she could do anything. But it took a visit from a lady from the North Carolina Blind Association. And she convinced me. She said, "I promise you Jennifer can do this job." We prayed together, and when we finished praying, we were both crying. Jennifer came to work in 2016. She is the most loyal, loving, kind, and efficient employee anyone could ask for. And today, I asked for prayer for her. She's been going through a battle with pneumonia and some issues. She's been at Chapel Hill, but we're believing she's going to be coming home soon, and she'll be back at work in God's timing.
Jennifer is one of those people that literally is a light in this world, and she's been on this show before,
Yes.
you and Jennifer both. The dynamic of that makes me want to say that it seems that your faith and your mission is calling people together at the right time, at the right place. Have you noticed that within your ministry?
Yes, I have, because the people who have come for different reasons. And when they came and we talked and prayed together, they would come back. And many of them are retired. And one of the ones who came, and we prayed together for months, she loves to write. And she does our card ministry. And we have so many cards. We average 30 to 50 a week that go out to people. We had Miss Edith who came, and hers is prayer and working with parents who are sad. She came on board. Mike and Lisa. Mike he has been a nurse all his life. He was a PA in his work, and Lisa is just I call her a Mary. She has such a heart, yet she works like Martha did. They've come on board, and each one of them came at the right time. So now we have a call ministry that Jennifer does. We have the card ministry. We have the outreach ministry, which I do with help from all of them. But we go out and we take sunshine bags, or we take things to people and we pray with them in their home. A lot of people can't get out. We have the medical ministry, and God's taking care of that with our needs. And then we help people through the donations from our county and city and folks, and through the golf tournament we have. And we're getting ready to have a tea party in 2 weeks at the Methodist Church. And in May, we'll have Hub's Corn Mazes hosting again, Rise Up. And this year, we're asking people to rise up and rejuvenate. And I think that's what we're talking about. We all need to be rejuvenated, JW. But he has sent the right people, and then he sends other volunteers that come in maybe for just a day. He's taken care of the needs and given us the joy of serving.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're talking with Becky Spell Vann. We're talking about Tim's Gift, this origin of this, the passion behind it, the ministry moving forward with it. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment.
Providing fewer commutes, more backyard offices, and crystal clear meetings. Providing less, you froze up, and more presence in your presentations. Providing a better internet experience. Providing possible.
After completing my contract, I still have to buy out of it? Come on. Here's your sign.
Switch to the sign that's keeping homes secure and customers happy all over the area. Security from Star Communications. Sign up for security monitoring during the month of February and receive basic installation free.
Somebody try to break into this place?
Security from Star Communications.
Most aging adults want to stay in their homes as long as possible. And as your loved ones get older, you want to support them, even when you can't be there. Star is proud to offer Star Alert. This new system is now mobile and has GPS compatibility, so your loved ones can live their lives and you can have peace of mind, knowing they can get the help they need with just the simple push of a button. The new Star Alert also offers automatic fall detection, so help will be alerted even if they can't press the button. Call and ask about Star Alert today.
Welcome back. J.W. Simmons here. The name of the show is We Should Know. Becky Spell Vann is with us today. And Becky, I just feel compelled on this last part of the show here to kind of bring together a number of things that you have blessed us with today. I'll use that word. The thing that strikes me, I want to circle back very quickly and talk about this young lady, Jennifer, that works for you. And she's been on this show. She is such a light, a shining light in the community, and people that get to know her is just amazed at her drive and her poise and her capacity and her capability. I want to kind of speak to that a bit, because I remember you mentioned to me that given where she's at now, that you're encouraging people, if they would like to just take a card and drop it in your box at Tim's Gift to Becky, if they want to write a note in there, or if it's a piece of scripture or something, you're going to gather all of that and you're going to go up and read that to her, because again, she's not going to be able to read it. I think that's such an inspiring thing. How did that idea come up to just have a simple note put on there and drop it in the mailbox?
Well, it came up one morning doing the morning message, and I've not mentioned this, but back when COVID started in March 2020, I remember the churches began closing down. And I was sad, and I said, Lord, the churches are closing down. We don't need to do that. But then you felt like you needed to be safe. And I said, the sermons need to be preached. And God put on my heart, but we are the church. And I thought, well, where's that going? I didn't understand it. And then he began stirring my heart and said, you can get the word out where you are. So I just took my phone, and I've never put the phone on me, because it's not about me. This is something God put on my heart to do. And since that day in March of 2020, I've not missed a day. I try to do it in the morning. Sometimes it's come in the afternoon, and the devil's worked against that. My phone might not work, or it might not go out. This week I had a gentleman that he and his wife text me actually Tuesday morning, and they said, where is it? Where is this morning's message? And their phone was not working. And when I started that in 2020, I said, Lord, if there's a day when nobody watches or responds, I'll know that that's the end. That's your way of telling me. But it proves that people are hungry. They're hungry for the word. So through that, I encouraged Jennifer to start doing something to get the word out about what she's been through. Her story is amazing. And she said, but I can't do that, Becky. I said, but you could write a blog. So she has begun writing a blog, and she's written chapters about her life. And for those who say, well, how would she do that? The Blind Association had a special computer, and Jennifer has memorized her keys, and it helps her to do that. And then she asks us and her mother to edit and to read her blogs that she writes. So that's part of Jennifer's ministry now at Tim's Gift. But when she came to work there, it was a slow start, but it didn't take long for me to see just what she can do. And what is so beautiful about Jennifer is her purity and her boldness. She has a faith that is stronger. It's amazing. And when she believes something, she does not back down. And that's why I know she'll be coming home. I believe with all my heart that God will bring her home from Chapel Hill. She's going to recover and be back at work. But we also have to be careful. I know that because of her immune system. And that's all of us. We have to be careful and use good measures. But JW, I see how God's worked in Jennifer's life. Her mother has told me her life is Tim's gift. I've tried to get her to work from home when COVID, we did a few days, but she said, I want to be here in this chair. I want to witness the people coming in and hearing their laughter and hearing you all pray with them. She said, that's what I want to witness. And one day when I was out getting equipment for someone, Jennifer was in and someone came in. They told her what they wanted and she asked them to walk with her in the back. They did. They led her to the back. She got what supplies they needed and she prayed with them. And when I came through that door, I was like, it was the most amazing thing. So Jennifer is really proof of that scripture, JW, that says we can do all things through him who strengthens us. Becky can't do it. Jennifer couldn't do this on her own. God had that job lined up for her. That was part of the plans for Tim's gift. And not only did God have a job lined up for her, he had a man lined up for me. And I never thought that, JW, because you can't remember which to call me, Spell or Vann. But, I mean, in 2010, the door opened one day and a gentleman walked in. I didn't know him and he introduced himself and he said, my wife has passed and she had cancer and I don't know what to do with myself. He said, I go home, I get the mail out of the mailbox, I sit down on the ditch bank. I don't want to go in the house. I don't want to go in my truck and ride anywhere. I don't know what to do with me and I don't know where to go. He said, but I've heard you all pray with people. And we prayed together that day, JW. And he came every week and we would pray over his situation. And about 6 months after that, he asked me to go to Cracker Barrel. I said, heavens no, God's not ready for that. Well, God spanked my hand big time because sometimes we think we know what God wants us to have. I was not interested in another marriage. But God began to download in my mind. I remember walking on the beach one day and I could see James's face in my mind. And I said, Lord, I'm going to sing that song from the Pacific. I'm going to wash that man out of my hair. I did not want a man, JW, because I thought it would hinder the ministry. But God began working on my heart. And it was a year after he had started coming. He came one day and we prayed. And he told me, he said, these prayers have helped me. I've accepted the Lord. And he said, I feel like a changed man. And he told me he had taken a lady out to dinner. And I know this sounds silly, but this is the way God wired us. He wired you men different than he did we women. Mm-hmm. We have lots of emotions. Mm-hmm. And when James and I finished praying that day, there were tears coming down my cheeks. And I remember he was holding my hands praying. I said, Lord, don't you let me cry. I don't want to show. But you know what? I was thinking about what God was doing, and those tears were from God. So he left that day and he came back about a month later and asked me, would I go to Cracker Barrel? I said, I'd love to go. And that was the beginning of I call it a romance, because it was nothing that I had planned, but God had planned it. And we were together for 2 years. He helped me so much. He had retired from his job at the Piggly Wiggly. He helped me go out and get equipment. God sent what he knew I needed for a season, but then God called him home quickly, JW. It was 2 years. And I can remember being in shock, and I thought, Lord, why would you send if you're going to take away? Kind of like in the Bible where the lady asked for a child and Elijah went by and said, okay, and they had a child and the child died. And she said, why would you send a baby? Well, I felt that and I could feel bitterness and I knew I had to get rid of that. But what I did in that, I looked at it this way. God sent someone that helped me and made me a stronger person. And he also sent 2 stepdaughters and several step-grandchildren. And I love them today and they love me. So God will send things to us sometimes that we may reject. And if we don't pray about it, we may never know. That's what I've seen happening at Tim's Gift. Some of the people who came, I wondered why. People that come, God has a reason. And when we pray with them, most of the time, that's when he reveals the reason why.
What's coming up at Tim's Gifts right now that you see? I know you got Rise Up coming up in May. You've got some other things that's happening. Give us some sense of what the vision is you're looking at now at Tim's Gift.
Well, our vision has changed a lot because we now take clothes in. People bring clothes. And we started this ministry, the clothes ministry. But we don't really have room for it, but God will take care of that. Because a lot of widows and widowers would come and say, I've got my wife or my husband's clothes in the car. I can't bear to go put it in a a box, or I want to know it's going to go somewhere. So we have started taking that, and it's amazing. The shed heads at the food bank work with us and Helping Hands. And through that, there are people we know of. So we are accepting things now that we didn't for a while, besides medical supplies and equipment. But also, we do try to have at least 3 events a year to get the word out there and to present to the community. One is a sing that we are going to start. It's becoming a tradition. We had it 2 Sunday nights ago at Grove Park. It's a winter sing. And then we have the tea party coming up March 9th at First Methodist Church. And May 19th on a Sunday afternoon, Hub's Farm is going to host another Rise Up. And this will be for people of all ages. We will have food trucks. The Clinton Community Church cheerleaders will be there. These are things we give back to the community. There's no charge for any of that. But the one fundraiser we have every third Friday in October is the Hope Project Golf Tournament. That's where we have sponsors and people give. And that helps us keep going.
So you reach the community in multiple ways, and not only in the sense of giving, but also receiving so you can give more.
Yes. Yes, we do. Many people are monthly PAL partners. They have maybe drafted from their bank every month. Some are they sponsor events. They like to do that. Some are year-end givers. Some give every month. They come in and they say, we just want to come in and give our monthly check and have a prayer with you. So we are blessed. I give God the glory, and I give our community the credit for supporting Tim's gift. And we get calls of support. We'll get little text that says, thank you for what you're doing. I am grateful for what God is doing, but I'm so thankful to live here. Our pastor, when he came, Pastor Ammons, 10 years ago now, he gave us all a sticker that said, love where you live. And I took my sticker, instead of putting it on my car, I put it on the window at Tim's gift. And I'm reminded every time I lock and unlock that door to love where I live, because God put me here. And he has plans for all of us, JW. It's not just you with We Should Know or me with Tim's gift. He's got plans for all his children, but we have to listen and we have to take heed and pray, and he will open the door.
Well, I want to tell you, we appreciate you being here today, and we appreciate you being our guest. And more importantly, we appreciate what you're doing in the community and moving in the community. And of course, anytime, come back. Love to have you again.
Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. And we look forward to seeing you again each and every week and next week. And may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.